That world was no longer sustained by peace, but by a dread that seeped into every breath and by the stifled screams of humanity. The people of that era were no longer masters of the earth. They were merely wretches living in the shadow of the violent Nephilim giants. These crossbreeds grew so immense that they devoured all food sources before turning to feast upon human flesh. High above the fallen angels watched the ruin from towers of black stone, their expressions cold. They brought down knowledge of weaponry and incantations not to aid, but to incite humanity to slaughter one another even more ferociously. It was a world rife with misery, where mothers could do nothing but hold their children and weep hopelessly before the floodwaters arrived to wash everything away. Before blood and iron ruled the earth, there was an era of pure light. In the seventh heaven, where the concepts of time and darkness did not exist, lived the Grigori, also known as the Watchers. They were the highest-ranking angels tasked with being the eyes of the Creator, silently observing the workings of mankind from afar. They were forbidden from touching the dust of the earth, forbidden from interfering with the flow of fate, and strictly forbidden from tasting mortal emotions. But millennia of observation had become a kind of poison. Samyaza, the majestic leader of the Watchers, stood at the edge of eternity. To him, the radiance of heaven had grown as bland as ash. His blazing golden eyes pierced through the layers of clouds, locking onto the earth a dark, chaotic orb, yet one teeming with primal vibrations, laughter, tears, and the pungent scent of flesh. He saw Ishtal, a daughter of man, dancing around a fire in the valley of Mount Hermon. She was not praying for salvation. She hungered for something forbidden by celestial law, the power to master her own destiny. Why must we guard those who do not even know they are being protected? Samyaza's murmur rang out like a crack in the still mirror of obedience. He turned to look at the 200 angels under his command. He knew that if only one descended, it would be a sin. But if they all did so together, it would be a revolution. Upon the misty peak of Mount Hermon, 200 entities of light touched down, shaking the very strata of the earth. Their presence was so brilliant that the surrounding vegetation withered instantly. "Are you afraid?" Tyrael Samyaza turned to the youngest angel who was trembling. "The light above is a shackle. The dust beneath these feet is a throne." To seal the fate of the entire group, Samyaza performed an irrevocable act. Heaven had gone silent. Pain struck like a sledgehammer. Samyaza's snow-white wings began to ignite in pitch-black flames. Every feather turned to ash, leaving behind gray, thorny skeletal frames before vanishing entirely. His flesh grew heavy, his pores dilating to take in the chill of the wind and the frantic beat of a mortal heart. For the first time, the divine being knew the meaning of lust. At the foot of the mountain Kale, a young human man stood frozen. The stars falling onto Hermon's peak brought no miracles. They were massive silhouettes over 3 meters tall, possessing the majesty of gods but exuding the breath of the abyss. Kyle watched as Ishtal stepped out from the circle of fire, small yet proud before Samyaza. The fallen angel lowered his hulking frame, his golden eyes now bloodshot with the veins of worldly desire. Samyaza reached out with a coarse hand that had just taken physical form and caressed Ishtal's face. A wordless pact was signed by the hot breath of the one who had just betrayed heaven and the burning ambition of the woman who wished to rule the earth. Kyle felt a piercing chill wash over him. The wooden staff he held suddenly rotted, turning to ash right in his hands. The old world with its simple rules had been officially put to death. The era of gods of flesh and blood had begun. The sound of hammer hitting anvil rang out from the heart of a cave in Mount Hermon, not with the rhythm of creation, but like the heartbeat of a waking monster. Azazel stood there, the fallen angel's bare chest glowing as it reflected the fire from the eternal forge. He did not use charcoal. He used the breath of the abyss to melt black ore that humans had previously regarded only as rubble. Kyle stood in the dark corner, his hands once accustomed only to holding stone hoes now trembling before the terrifying heat. He watched Azazel lift a glowing red metal bar from the fire. Its shape was flat and sharp, something that had never existed in human memory. "Do you fear it?" Azazel threw the red-hot steel onto the stone slab in front of Kale. The hiss of the metal hitting the cold air sounded like the scream of an imprisoned soul. "The Creator's mercy left you empty-handed against the fangs and claws of beasts. I am different. I give you the tooth of a predator, but made of steel." Kyle hesitantly touched the hilt. The searing burn did not make him recoil. Instead, a jolt of electricity ran down his spine, awakening his most primal instinct, the hunger for dominance. Azazel leaned in low, his voice like wind whistling through rock crevices. "Mix the blood of your enemies into the quenching water. That is the only way this blade will recognize its master." At the same time, in the center of the valley, Ishtal did not seek power from a forge. She sat among ceramic jars filled with antimony powder, crushed quartz crystals, and essential oils extracted from cursed flora. Standing behind her was Gadriel, the one with melancholic eyes that held every secret of enchantment. "Beauty is a type of cage, Ishtal," Gadriel whispered, his thin hand smearing a trail of deep black onto her eyelid. "He who carries a sword can only kill the body, but she who knows how to use eye color and fragrance can tear apart the souls of the proudest gods." Ishtal looked into a freshly polished bronze mirror, another gift from the fallen heavens. She no longer recognized herself. Her eyes were now as deep as the abyss of Tartarus, her lips as red as fresh blood. She realized that with a single blink she could bring Samyaza to his knees, and with a smile she could drive 2 tribes to extinction. Cosmetic magic was not for decoration. It was an invisible weapon, a catalyst for the darkest desires of men. The transformation of knowledge quickly led to bloodshed. Kyle, under Azazel's guidance, had equipped his tribe with iron-headed spears and razor-sharp longswords. He no longer looked at neighboring tribes as brothers of the same bloodline. In his eyes now they were merely unenlightened livestock, occupants of fertile land who lacked the strength to defend it. War broke out at dusk when the sun hung as red as if it were on a rack. The eastern tribe, who still used wooden spears and animal hide shields, watched in horror as Kale's army tore through their defenses. The sound of steel hitting bone rang out dry and brittle. Kale swung his sword, Azazel's blue steel blade, slicing through wooden spears as if they were nothing but straw. He felt blood splatter onto his face, hot and metallic, but instead of revulsion, he felt a frantic euphoria. In the midst of the blood-soaked battlefield, Ishtal appeared on a chariot pulled by hybrid beasts. She stood there, magnificent in layers of sheer silk and solid gold jewelry, her heavily lined eyes watching the carnage with cold indifference. She saw men screaming her name before they fell. She saw Kyle, the gentle cousin of yesterday, now a bloodthirsty butcher. That night the valley was no longer peaceful. The smell of blood mingled with the scent of frankincense and the mocking laughter of the fallen angels. Azazel stood on a cliffside looking down at the scattered corpses and rusted blades, smiling with satisfaction. The gift from hell had been accepted, and the price to be paid began to seep deep into the earth. Kyle sat alone by the fire, wiping the blood from his blue blade. He realized the bloodstains would never be completely clean. They had soaked into the grain of the steel just as brutality had soaked into his soul. In the distance from the wombs of the women who had received the grace of the angels, a strange heartbeat began to throb, signaling a new chapter, even more horrific than war. Kyle and Ishtal's journey was about to take an even darker turn as new life emerged. The sky over the valley had not been clear blue since the day the Watchers descended. It was covered by a gray film heavy as lead. But the true suffocation lay within the wombs of the women of the line of Cain. 6 months had passed since the night on Mount Hermon, and a bizarre syndrome began to ravage their bodies. The fetuses did not grow at a mortal pace. They hijacked the blood vessels, drained the mother's life force, and ballooned with terrifying speed. Ishtal lay on a mahogany couch in a crude stone palace, her breath coming in gasps. The enchanting beauty that had once swayed angels was now a gaunt mask, her skin stretched so thin it bled pale and cold. Inside her, something as hard as a boulder and as hot as lava was stirring. Samyaza stood beside her, his massive hand placed on her stomach, not to comfort, but to feel the rise of a new kingdom. He did not look at her. He looked at the demigod seed that was destroying her body. The blood moon arrived, bringing with it screams that tore through the night from every camp. These were not the cries of newborns, but the low growls of caged beasts. In Ishtal's chamber, labor turned into a biological massacre. She shrieked as she felt her pelvis crack under the pressure of an entity that did not belong to humanity. When the creature escaped the womb, it needed no one to hold it. It hit the stone floor with a dry thud, stood upright on bulging muscular legs, and opened eyes of glowing yellow phosphorescence identical to Samyaza's. That was Mahwe Samyaza's first Nephilim. His body was as tall as a grown man the moment he was born, his skin gray and tough like snake scales. He did not cry. He looked at Ishtal, his mother, gasping for life in a pool of blood, with a hollow, soulless gaze, then turned to snap up a slab of raw beef sitting on the sacrificial altar. The sound of bones snapping under the infant's sharp teeth made the nearby handmaidens collapse in terror. Fear began to spread like a plague. Kyle, standing in the palace corridor, witnessed other children stepping out of the rooms. They grew so fast that the cloth wraps around their bodies were shredded within hours. They possessed no compassion, no human soul, and none of the purity of an angel. They were hybrid entities, massive energy-consuming machines. In just 3 days, the tribe's stored food supplies were exhausted. The Nephilim devoured all the breast milk, all the wheat, and all the livestock. When their hunger went unsatisfied, their predatory instincts took over. Kyle watched in horror as Mahwe lunged at a slave presenting food. Instead of using his hands, Samyaza's son tore open the poor man's chest with pitch-black claws and began to ravenously devour the victim's heart and liver while he was still moaning. "Stop!" Kyle swung Azazel's blue sword, the tip pointed directly at Mahwe. "He is killing our people." Samyaza stepped out from the shadows, his hand gently brushing Kale's blade aside as if it were a piece of dry straw. "Do you not understand, Kale, you dust-born? Were created to serve this greatness. They are the new gods, and gods require sacrifices." Ishtal, dragging herself up from her sickbed with a broken body, watched the child she had just birthed licking blood from the gaps in his fingers. She realized that the cosmetic magic and power she had craved had led to a cruel end. She had not given birth to a king, but to a cannibal. Fear was no longer an emotion. It had become the very air they breathed. The world of stone and iron had stepped back, giving way to the era of the soulless, where humanity was officially pushed to the bottom of the food chain. Amidst the chaos from the edge of the dark forest, an aged figure silently observed the giant entities ravaging the valley. Enoch sighed, his eyes containing a profound sorrow, as the first salty drops of rain began to fall from the cracking firmament. The gluttony of the Nephilim would drive humanity into destitution, leading to the construction of a city to imprison both gods and men. In less than 3 moon cycles, the miserable valley was put to death to make way for a brutal marvel, the city of Enoch. Under the guidance of the Watchers and the peerless muscle of the Nephilim, obsidian blocks, weighing dozens of tons, were hoisted into the air via anti-gravity magic stacked into jagged towers that pierced the clouds. Enoch knew no night. Samyaza had suspended eternal crystals between the spires, which emitted a pallid, cold, violet light illuminating every crack in the blood-stained earth. The city glittered like a cursed gemstone, but within its gut the stench of corpses and moral decay rose thick. Humans who had once worshipped the angels as saviors were now herded into dark slums at the base of the towers, becoming the worker ants and livestock for the demigod empire. Cale stood on the highest balcony of the steel fortress, Azazel's blue armor glowing under the violet light. He was no longer the youth of the old tribe. He was the commander of the Enochian army, the wielder of a hollow sword of justice. Beneath his feet, tens of thousands of human warriors in iron plate marched in formation, ready to set out and conquer distant lands to bring back slaves and fodder. "What are you looking at, Commander?" Azazel stepped forward, his breath carrying the scent of heated metal. "Gazing upon the fruits of the knowledge I bestowed upon you." Cale gripped the hilt of his sword, his eyes bloodshot from sleeplessness. "Are we building a paradise or a massive slaughterhouse, Azazel? Every stone of this city is mixed with the bones of those who could not survive the labor." Azazel laughed a gravelly sound that echoed through the black stone corridor. "For one to stand at the peak, 10,000 must lie in the mud. That is the law of strength. Would you rather go back to chasing tigers with wooden sticks?" The extravagance of the ruling class reached a level of madness. In Ishtal's hanging palace, grand banquets never ended. Wine was laced with spirit fungi from cursed lands, plunging drinkers into a state of ecstatic hallucination. Ishtal sat upon a throne woven from the hair of the defeated. Her beauty was now a horrific fusion of divine splendor and demonic coldness. She used cosmetic magic to mask the fractures in her soul, using her gaze to manipulate Samyaza like a puppet in her bedchamber. But behind the vibrant velvet curtains lay a loathsome reality. The fallen angels had begun experiments in soul breeding. Kyle had witnessed with his own eyes Azazel dissecting living slaves to find a way to extract their inner light, hoping to compensate for the heavenly halo the Watchers had lost. Grotesque hybrid creatures, half man, half beast, devoid of consciousness, wandered the palace basements performing the filthiest of tasks. The peak of corruption came when the Nephilim began to view humans as ornaments. Mahwe Ishtal's son had converted a grand plaza into a hanging garden of human remains, where transgressors were strung up as sport for giant vultures. Kyle saw it all. He executed Samyaza's orders with a deathly silence, but deep in his heart, a fire of indignation began to smolder. He realized he was not a hero of humanity. He was the most loyal hound of the one who had stolen his people's souls. That night, a slight tremor shook the obsidian towers. The violet light crystals abruptly turned blood red for a few seconds before dying out. In that fleeting darkness, Cale looked toward the peaks of distant clouds and saw 7 shafts of white light standing tall like swords of judgment, silently descending. Heaven was silent no longer. It was preparing for a purge. Samyaza stood atop the highest tower, looking toward the horizon with a haughty smile, but his hand had begun to tremble. He knew the hunger of the Nephilim had reached an uncontrollable threshold, and this shimmering city of Enoch was in truth merely a trap he had set for himself. When the food runs out, the world order will be overturned with absolute brutality. The sky over Enoch no longer dropped the cool dew of the primordial days. Instead, a thick fog rolled in, carrying the pungent stench of eternal decomposition. The city of black light was now a gargantuan stomach, churning and roaring. The livestock supply from Cale's conquests had run dry. The grain fields were trampled under divine heels. When the stomachs of the demigod children went empty, the last of their angelic instincts vanished, leaving only the primal hunger of demons. Cale returned to the city after a bloody campaign in the north, bringing 3,000 shackled slaves. He expected to see blazing forges or bustling markets, but Enoch greeted him with a skin-crawling silence. On the obsidian-paved streets, the towering Nephilim no longer paraded with pride. They crouched on rooftops, their glowing yellow eyes hungrily stalking every passerby. "Commander, do not look them in the eye." A personal guard whispered, his voice shaking. "Last night they tore through the slave pens, not to put them to work, but to eat." Kyle froze Azazel's blue sword at his hip, suddenly feeling heavy as lead. He bolted toward the peripheral estate where he had used every privilege of a commander to shield his elderly mother and young sister. He had promised himself that this pile of iron and blood was the price for them to live in luxury sequestered from the filth of Ishtal's palace. But the estate gates had been lifted off their hinges, twisted like a scrap of rusted tin. In the center of the courtyard, Mawe Samyaza's firstborn sat amidst the ruins. His frame was now as massive as a small tower, his gray skin stretched tight over deformed muscle masses. He was chewing. The sound of bones splintering crack, crack, rang out rhythmically in the stillness. Beneath his feet lay the coarse wool shawl Kale's mother had always cherished, now soaked in an eye-searing crimson. Kale fell to his knees. The world around him collapsed faster than the city walls. He saw a lock of silver hair scattered on the stone floor, saw his sister's small shoe lying abandoned amidst bloodstains that trailed into the monster's gaping maw. Mawe looked up at Kyle, his blood-stained lips curling into a satisfied grin. "You brought the slaves back too late." "Commander," Mawe growled in the piercing tongue of the demigods, "the flesh of those who love you is truly very tender." "Beast!" Kale screamed a cry that ripped through his soul. He drew his sword, the blue steel whistling through the air as it struck for Mawe's knee. But the blade that had once cleaved the wooden shields of enemies now only left a faint scratch on the Nephilim's diamond-hard skin. With a mere flick of his arm, Mawe sent Kale flying 30 feet, slamming him into a stone pillar, his rib cage shattered. In a half-conscious haze, Kyle saw Samyaza approach. The fallen angelic leader looked upon the pile of remains with a terrifying indifference. "You weep for a few specks of dust, Kale?" Samyaza spoke, his voice echoing like thunder from the abyss. "I gave you knowledge. I gave you the power to rule. You must understand that in this kingdom, humans are merely the grass that nourishes the future gods. Be proud that your bloodline has been merged into the greatness of my son." Samyaza waved his hand, ordering the soldiers to throw Kyle into the ruins dungeon, the place for those sacrificed on the full moon. Kyle did not resist. He looked up at the sky of Enoch where the violet crystals were fading. He realized his horrific mistake. He had forged swords to protect his family, but the very presence of those swords had attracted the demons to slaughter them. In the darkness of the dungeon, amidst the stench of half-eaten victims, Kale felt a withered hand touch his shoulder. "It is too late for regret, but still time to bear witness." Enoch's voice rang out somber and profound. "The rain is coming, Kyle. Not the rain that waters the fields, but the rain that washes away all the filth of this world." Kyle looked through a small chink in the dungeon stone. For the first time in centuries, a cold drop of water fell onto the soil of Enoch, a drop as salty as the tears of the Creator. The great purge had officially begun, as the Nephilim, in their mad hunger, began to eye their angelic fathers with ravenous intent. The rain began to fall heavily, drumming incessantly on the obsidian domes of the Enochian palace, but the true chill lay within Ishtal's private chambers. She stood before a large bronze mirror, looking at a reflection she herself found repulsive. The porcelain skin that had once driven angels to madness was now crisscrossed with tiny black fissures, the consequence of carrying brutal demigod blood and abusing cosmetic magics beyond the limits of the flesh. Ishtal heard Mahwai's growls in the corridor. The son she had birthed did not look at her as a mother. He looked at her as a reserve ration. She also understood Samyaza perfectly. The angelic leader now viewed her only as a vessel whose value had run dry. Once the wrath of the heavens descended, he would not hesitate to toss her into the maws of the Nephilim to buy time for himself. Do you wish to live or to be a sacrifice for his greatness? A gravelly voice emerged from the dark corner of the room. Azazel stepped out, his chest covered in searing scars from the forge. This fallen angel had long been resentful of Samyaza, hogging all power and worship, relegating him to the dark dungeons of smithing. "What do you bring me, metal worker?" Ishtal turned her heavily lined, sharp eyes, still exuding the authority of a queen at the end of her rope. Azazel placed a hairpin made of polished, eerie black metal on the table. "This is steel mixed with the ashes of an angel who died in the wars of the old heavens. It does not cut flesh, it cuts the soul. One strike to the nape of Samyaza's neck while he sleeps, and the order of Enoch shall be ours." The pact was sealed between two traitors. Ishtal organized a grand banquet to celebrate the birth of a new generation of Nephilim, a perfect play to lull Samyaza's vigilance. In the grand hall bathed in violet light, wine flowed endlessly, spiked with venom from abyss-dwelling serpents that Ishtal had secretly sent men to extract. The fallen angels indulged in lust and hallucination, unaware that the atmosphere was thickening with death. That night, as Samyaza drifted off into a magical stupor, Ishtal approached his bedside. The hairpin in her hand trembled. She looked upon the majestic face of the one who had given her power, but stripped away her humanity. A second of hesitation flickered, but the scream of a slave being torn apart by a Nephilim in the courtyard extinguished it. She swung her arm, plunging the pin directly into the weakest point at the leader's nape. A muffled explosion rang out. Blazing, golden, angelic blood poured out so hot it incinerated the velvet bedding. Samyaza did not die instantly. He let out an earth-shaking roar, a surge of energy from his body, hurling Ishtal against the wall. He surged awake, his golden eyes shot through with the veins of heavenly blood, looking at Ishtal with absolute hatred. "You, mortal vermin!" Samyaza swung his scepter, but his body had been half paralyzed by Azazel's poison. At that moment, Azazel entered, but instead of finishing Samyaza as promised, he immediately dropped to his knees. "Lord, this woman seduced me. I came here to stop her." Ishtal watched the overlapping betrayals in shock. Azazel, the most cunning of them all, had chosen to sacrifice her to preserve his position when he saw the assassination attempt go awry. Samyaza used his scepter to crush Ishtal's legs, ordering her locked in an iron cage suspended over the plaza for the Nephilim to torment. However, an unforeseen event occurred. The Nephilim led by Mawe no longer obeyed Samyaza. The scent of angelic blood from his wound had stimulated their hunger to the point of madness. They began to smash the palace pillars, roaring to feast upon their own father. The city of Enoch shook in a bloody civil war between the demigods and the angels. Amidst the ruins and screams, a swift shadow slipped toward Ishtal's iron cage. It was Kyle, recently freed from the dungeon by Enoch. He looked at his cousin, once a queen, now a mangled heap of flesh in an iron cage. "Come with me, if you still want to see the last light of this world," Kyle said, the broken blade in his hand severing the iron chains. Ishtal took Kyle's hand, her blood-rimmed eyes looking back at the burning palace. She realized that in the kingdom of monsters, the final traitor is destiny. When the city of gods becomes a slaughterhouse, faith is the only thing left standing. The rain was no longer a light mist watering the fields. It had turned into cold, torrential arrows of water, lashing down upon a world groaning under the weight of its sin. Kyle supported Ishtal as they trekked through the dense forests west of the city of Enoch. His feet sank deep into the mire, and Azazel's blue armor was now stained with black blood and the claw marks of the pursuing Nephilim. Behind them, the pallid violet light of the obsidian towers was swallowed by the curtain of rain, leaving only the melancholic screams echoing from that hell on earth. Amidst the rolling thunder and the roars of wild beasts, a strange sound emerged, steady and resolute enough to pierce through the chaos. Thwack, thwack, thwack. It was the sound of wood meeting wood. There was no boastful magic, no piercing screech of a steel forge. That sound guided them to a secluded valley where a white mist shrouded a colossal structure. It was not a tower thrusting toward the heavens to defy the divine, but a gargantuan wooden ark crouching upon the earth like an ancient creature awaiting a great cataclysm. Noah stood there under the flickering light of a torch that refused to be extinguished by the downpour. He wore no gold-plated robes like the angels, nor did he carry sword or spear. In his hand was a primitive stone axe, its wooden handle worn smooth by his grip. Each stroke he delivered to the gopher wood carried a strange rhythm, the rhythm of patience and absolute faith. "You're mad, old man." Coil collapsed against the side of the wooden vessel, his broken blue sword thudding into the mud. The city of Enoch is falling. The demigods are devouring one another. The fallen angels are using human blood to power weapons against the sky. And you're out here carving a wooden coffin in the wilderness. Noah paused his axe. He looked at Cale, and his eyes held neither fear nor arrogance, but only a profound sorrow. "You call this a coffin because you see only death surrounding your soul, Commander. But I call this hope. When the earth is washed clean by the wrath of the Creator, only that which is lightest of heart will be able to float." Guile laughed bitterly, gesturing toward the trembling Ishtal beside him. "Light of heart. We carry the blood of an entire nation on our hands. She carries the ambition of a queen who lost her throne. Is there a place for us on your hope? The ark does not choose the strong or the powerful," Noah said, stepping forward slowly and placing a weathered hand on Cale's shaking shoulder. "It chooses those who know how to repent before the door is shut. You forged steel to conquer, and now you see that blade shattered. I fashion wood to preserve, and this axe will remain sharp long after all of Azazel's steel has turned to rust at the bottom of the ocean." That night, in a valley that was hauntingly peaceful, Cale witnessed an impossible sight. Animals that were natural enemies, lion and deer, leopard and rabbit, walked quietly in pairs toward the wooden ship. They did not growl. They did not tear at one another. A grand reconciliation was taking place under the protection of a supreme being whom Kyle had long forgotten. Sitting by a small fire inside the ark, Kyle looked at Ishtal. She was removing her final forbidden gold rings, casting them into the darkness of the valley. She was no longer the enchanting queen, but merely a woman seeking to wash the stain of the divine from her flesh. Kyle realized that Samyaza's power was brilliant yet hollow, while Noah's silence was as steady as a mountain. "The sound of your axe. It frightens me," Kyle whispered to Noah. "Why? Because it signals that our time is up. It signals that everything we built in Enoch, the towers, the treasures, the conquests, is nothing but river trash." Noah looked out at the ink-black rain on the horizon, where a massive pillar of violet light suddenly shot into the sky from the direction of Enoch, an omen that Samyaza had activated his final war machine. "Indeed, Commander. When men wish to be God, they set fire to their own home. But remember, after the rain, the earth will be clean." Kyle stood up, picking up the half of his broken sword. He looked toward that pallid light with a new resolve. He would not return to fight for Samyaza, but to save the souls that could still be saved, leading them to this sound of the axe, before the floodwaters erased everything. While Noah persisted in building the ark, Samyaza had reached the final step of his madness. Violet lightning slashed across the sky of Enoch, originating not from the clouds, but from the summit of the Tower of Defiance. Samyaza stood there, hysterical, amidst burning magical circles hovering in the air. He no longer possessed the majesty of the angelic leader who had first descended. His eyes were now merely two deep pits containing terror and insane vanity. At the base of the tower, tens of thousands of human slaves were being forced to feed their soul essence into Azazel's energy conduction system. Massive crystals drained their lives, turning living bodies into withered husks in an instant to accumulate a source of terrifying power. Samyaza believed that if he could shoot down the Watchers, standing upon the layers of clouds, he would become the master of destiny itself. "Fire, shoot them down for me." "Oh!" Samyaza shrieked, his voice echoing louder than the thunder. Azazel stood by the machines launching magical fire, his steel-forging hands trembling as he looked at the sky. Above the pitch-black clouds, 7 brilliant shafts of white light appeared still and towering like the pillars of the universe. These were the archangels, their former brothers, those bearing the sentence of heaven to cleanse the earth. They used no swords, no bows. They simply stood there, looking down at the rot of Enoch with a terrifying silence. Kyle had just returned to the outskirts of the city, witnessing the horrific scene. He saw the obsidian tower fire a gargantuan beam of light, tearing through the rain and striking the celestial entities above. An explosion shook the entire planet, causing distant seas to surge. But when the magical dust cleared, the archangels remained unshaken. Samyaza's attack had not touched them. It had only ripped open the protective firmament, causing massive cataracts of water from the heavens to pour down like a waterfall. "Do you see now, Samyaza?" Kyle yelled amidst the ruins of the city square. "You cannot shoot them down. You are only opening the door for death to arrive faster." By now, the Nephilim within the city were in total disarray. Mawe, seeing his father's helplessness, allowed hunger and fear to turn him against the other fallen angels. The hybrids began to tear apart those who had created them, desperate to seize what little energy remained, to find a way to fly into the sky and escape. The once glittering Enoch had become a death trap, where rainwater rose to the knees in minutes and magical fires blazed upon the rooftops. Samyaza frantically swung his scepter, attempting to command the tower to fire a second shot. He muttered forbidden languages, hoping to reverse the flow of the floodwaters. But every time a flash of light was launched, it was immediately extinguished by the rain. The pillars of the tower began to crack under the weight of the disaster and the curse. Kyle took advantage of the chaos, leading the last of the slaves toward Noah's Valley. He looked back one last time, seeing Samyaza standing atop the tower arms, outstretched in defiance of the sky, while the ground beneath his feet began to shatter. From those fissures, pitch-black water from the heart of the abyss surged up, mingling with the water from high above to submerge the final glories of the fallen angelic empire. The war against the heavens had failed the moment it began. Samyaza's arrogance had become the final nail in the coffin of the antediluvian civilization. The waters rose, and every throne was about to sink into the deep. The fountains of the great deep burst forth. It was not just a prophecy, it was the roar of annihilation. Water did not fall from the clouds. It poured from the zenith like massive water spouts, tearing through the atmosphere. Beneath the city of Enoch, the earth cracked open, erupting with jet-black water from the core of the world, scalding hot and carrying the taste of 1,000 years of death. The once splendid obsidian towers collapsed like sandcastles before the fury of the ocean. Kale stood atop the Tower of Defiance, the highest point of land remaining amidst the vast sea. Around him, the radiant city of Enoch was now nothing but deadly whirlpools, swallowing screaming Nephilim and angels who were losing their luster. Samyaza stood there, his shattered wings dragging in the mire, his face distorted by madness. "Have you come to watch me die, Commander?" Samyaza laughed, a raspy sound that blended with the crashing waves. "Look, I created a kingdom that defied heaven itself, and now heaven must use an entire ocean to erase me." "You didn't create a kingdom, Samyaza. You created a slaughterhouse." Kyle swung his broken sword, Azazel's blue steel, whistling through the torrential rain. The duel broke out in the heart of the storm. Samyaza unleashed the final streaks of violet energy from his cracked scepter, but Kyle was no longer afraid. Every step he took on the sinking tower was an affirmation of humanity against divine arrogance. As the tower tilted, Kyle lunged, using all his strength to drive the broken blade into the fallen angel's chest. Blazing, golden, angelic blood poured out, mingling with the cold rainwater. Samyaza fell to his knees, his glowing yellow eyes fading. He saw Noah's Ark drifting serenely in the distance, steady amidst waves as high as mountains. For the first time, the fallen leader felt his utter insignificance. A massive tsunami crashed down, crushing the tower's peak and plunging both the victor and the vanquished into the deep darkness of the ocean. The water lay as flat as a giant mirror reflecting the gray sky. There were no more screams, no more metallic tang of war. Noah's gopher wood ark drifted lonely upon the vast ocean, carrying the only remaining breath of a world that had been purged. Kyle woke on the deck, his body aching but his soul strangely light. He saw Ishtal sitting quietly by pairs of animals. Her hands no longer bore gold or jewels, only the scars of a queen who had woken from a dream. Beneath those deep waters, the radiant city of Enoch and its crimes were buried forever. In the darkness of the abyss of Tartarus, Samyaza and the fallen angels were bound by unbreakable chains of light. The sentence had been passed. They were to witness the souls of their Nephilim children become wandering evil spirits, unable to find peace roaming the barren earth until the day of final judgment. It was the eternal curse for those who had brought forbidden knowledge to poison humanity. Months passed, and the dove returned with a fresh olive branch. When the ark's door opened on the peak of Ararat, a new world appeared, pristine, clean, and full of hope. Kyle stepped onto the damp earth. He picked up a piece of black obsidian washed ashore, the last fragment of the Tower of Defiance. "We will build again," Noah said, looking toward the rainbow of the covenant shining in the sky. But this time, not through arrogance, but through humility. Kyle looked at the black stone in his hand and then hurled it into the abyss. He realized that while the knowledge of the fallen angels had vanished, the freedom to choose between good and evil remained in the blood of humanity. The era of the giant gods had ended, giving way to the arduous but glorious journey of humans, those who must write their own destiny upon the ashes of the past. That world collapsed not for lack of knowledge, but because humanity lost its compassion and righteousness in the face of vain temptations. When power and lust overshadowed faith, mankind closed the door to its own salvation. Noah's Ark remains an eternal testament. Amidst the many storms of life, only a steadfast faith in God and a virtuous life serve as the most peaceful harbor. Do not let fleeting glamour lead you into darkness. Choose to walk the path of light and truth. The darkness recedes and the true sun of a new era begins to rise over the open horizon. To hold fast the flame of faith together and build a community living by God's word, I invite you to share your most meaningful lesson in the comments below, or leave an amen to help spread His light. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let these messages of goodness spread further and touch hearts seeking peace. May His grace and love always protect and guide your steps.